I want to fake an illness, Chief Okonkwo said with calm conviction. I want to pretend I'm dying. Stage 4 cancer. I need to know who truly loves me and who is only here for my money. The two men exchanged stunned glances. Dr. Clement sat upright, unsure he heard correctly. Chief, are you sure? That's a serious step. Will he be proven wrong or uncover the unimaginable? Grab your popcorn, sit back, and watch as the truth unfolds.
Chief Emmanuel Okonkwo was a man of great wealth and influence, a self-made billionaire. He built his empire from scratch, an empire that included multiple companies, a luxury hotel chain, acres of real estate, and massive investments across Nigeria and beyond. But beyond the money, he was a deeply principled man who believed in the value of family, loyalty, and hard work. He wasn't just a provider for his immediate family. He extended his benevolence to cousins, uncles, nephews, and even the community. Scholarships, business loans, hospital bills. He handled them all without expecting anything in return. He was their pillar, but as he aged and watched the world change, doubts began to creep into his mind. What happens when I can no longer work? Will my family care for me, or just my wealth? If I fall sick today, who will stand by me? One evening, he sat alone in his private study, gazing at a framed photo of his late mother, the woman who raised him with so much love and wisdom. Mama, forgive me, but I must know the truth. That night, Chief Okonkwo made a call that would change the course of his family's life forever. He dialed two of the most trusted men in his circle, his longtime barrister, Barrister Madu, and the family's dedicated physician, Dr. Clement. When they arrived at his mansion in Ikoyi, Lagos, he wasted no time. I want to fake an illness, Chief Okonkwo said with calm conviction. I want to pretend I'm dying, stage 4 cancer. I need to know who truly loves me and who is only here for my money. The two men exchanged stunned glances. Dr. Clement sat upright, unsure he heard correctly. Chief, are you sure? That's a serious step. Chief Okonkwo nodded gravely. I've built wealth for this family, but now I need to know if I built a family or just fed leeches. Barrister Madu sighed, then nodded slowly. If this is truly what you want, Chief, then let us prepare. But first, we must protect your legacy. That night, the three of them got to work. A secret bank account was opened under Chief Okonkwo's name in a discreet offshore institution. Into it, they transferred 80% of his wealth, his hotel chains, vast real estate holdings, stocks, and company shares. The ownership of each asset was masked under a newly formed trust. Only Barrister Madu held the legal documents and access to the account. Nothing would be traceable. By dawn, the plan was already in motion. Chief Okonkwo began acting frail, struggling to sit up in bed. He groaned softly and kept his curtains drawn. His vibrant, commanding presence was now replaced by a feeble whisper. The news spread like wildfire through the household. His wife, Agnes, stormed into the bedroom, her face pale with fear. Behind her came their children, Obina, 29, the first son, Onyeka, 27, Glory, 25, and Chisom, the baby of the house, at 23. Daddy, Glory screamed, rushing to his bedside. What's wrong? Moments later, Dr. Clement arrived, carrying a briefcase of fake test results. After a mock examination, he delivered the devastating news. I'm afraid Chief has advanced stage cancer, he said solemnly. He may not live past 6 months. Gasps and sobs filled the room. Agnes dropped to her knees, wailing. She gripped her father's hand, tears streaming down her face. Obina and Onyeka stood frozen, avoiding eye contact, their expressions unreadable. The test had begun. At first, the family rallied around Chief Okonkwo. There were loud prayer sessions in the living room, led by visiting pastors and prophets. Glory would sit beside her father, occasionally holding his hand, her eyes flickering. With concern, Agnes wept openly during prayers, clutching her Bible. The entire house felt like a mini revival ground. But after just 2 weeks, the illusion began to crumble. Obina, always the businessman, was the first to excuse himself. "I have a board meeting in Abuja," he said one morning. "I'll check in later." He never did. Onyeka followed suit. "I need to manage my clients." "You know how demanding they are," he said, slipping out in his usual crisp suit. Calls from him became infrequent. Even Glory, who had been affectionate at first, started returning home late. Sometimes she wouldn't even stop by her father's room, claiming exhaustion or work-related stress. The light in her eyes dimmed, and her voice lost its warmth. Agnes, once attentive and doting, began sleeping in a separate room. "I need proper rest," she said, avoiding Chief's gaze. Her excuses became routine. Only Chisom remained constant. Morning and night, she was there cooking, cleaning, singing softly, and holding his hand. "Daddy," she whispered one night, tears in her voice, "God will heal you. Don't leave me. I still need you." Chief Okonkwo's heart swelled. Of everyone, only she stayed true. But beyond his bedroom door, the fabric of the family was slowly falling apart. In Chief Okonkwo's prestigious company headquarters, a storm was brewing. Just a week after the news of his illness broke, Obina, the first son, called an emergency management meeting. Clad in a sharp designer suit, radiating false confidence, he barged into the boardroom and stood at the head of the long-polished table. "My father won't be returning," he announced coldly. "Effective today, I am the acting CEO." A hush fell over the room. A few junior staff clapped nervously, trying to curry favor. But among the older executives, men who had worked closely with Chief Okonkwo for decades, there were frowns and silent unease. One gray-haired director, Mr. Ez, stood up. "Obina, with all due respect, Chief is still alive. Gravely ill or not, this is premature and unethical." Obina slammed his fist on the table. "You dare question me? You're fired. In fact, all of you who object, pack your things." Chaos followed. That very week, Obina began exploiting his new position with reckless abandon. He diverted company funds to finance a lavish lifestyle. First-class flights to Dubai, endless yacht parties, luxury watches, champagne-soaked nights in Lagos clubs, and private escorts. He even moved into the company's executive penthouse. News of his excesses soon reached Onyeka, his younger brother. Enraged, Onyeka stormed into the office, pushing past the secretary. "What madness is this?" he bellowed. "You're looting our father's sweat and legacy." Obinai leaned back in the CEO chair, sipping from a crystal glass. "Sweat, that's drying up," he said coldly. 6 months to die is basically dead already. Fuming, Onyeka turned and walked out. But as he drove home, bitterness crept in. "If I don't act now, I'll be left with nothing." The next morning, Onyeka took matters into his own hands. He went straight to NKWO Luxury Hotels, the crown jewel of his father's empire. Marching into the general manager's office, he declared, "Put this hotel up for sale immediately." The manager's eyes widened. "Sir, this hotel is Chief's heart. He visits every weekend, talks to the staff, oversees the wine menu. Sell it or lose your job," Onyeka snapped, turning on his heel, shaken but loyal. The manager made a secret call to Barrister Madhu. The barrister moved swiftly. He organized a fake sale, complete with vetted buyers who signed forged documents and paid a fake deposit. In truth, the hotel was never sold. The documents were safely tucked away in the barrister's vault, but at home, things were unraveling faster than Chief Okonkwo could have imagined. The mask of affection had fallen away. One afternoon, Glory quietly took the keys to her father's favorite luxury car, a sleek black Mercedes he had cherished for years, and drove it out of the compound. I won't be the last to gain something, she mumbled to herself, as she finalized the sale through a contact on the island. The money went straight into her personal account. Meanwhile, Agnes, now distant and irritable, paid an unannounced visit to Barrister Modu's office. She sat stiffly across from him, her lips tight with impatience. "I want the will read," she said sharply. "Now, before it's too late." Barrister Modu remained composed. "There's no will to be read yet, madam, and even if there were, it cannot be opened until Chief is declared dead." Agnes left furious. That evening, she barged into her husband's room, nostrils flaring. "This place stinks. I can't keep living like this," she yelled. "You need to be moved to a guest room, Mummy, please," Chisom cried, standing protectively by her father. "Don't talk to Daddy like that." But Agnes had already summoned the housemaids. Later, that night, Chief Okonkwo lay alone in the cold guest room, not weakened by sickness, but by heartbreak, desperate for affection and tired of the silence that now filled her once vibrant home. Agnes paid a visit to her longtime friend, Madame Cynthia. They sat together in Cynthia's well-decorated parlor, sipping wine. "Since my husband's sickness started, my life has been empty," Agnes confessed, her voice low and bitter. "There's no joy, no touch, no affection, just sadness and that awful smell of sickness." Cynthia raised an eyebrow and smiled knowingly. "Agnes, you're still young and beautiful. You don't have to waste away in that house like a widow in waiting. Find someone who makes you feel alive again." That advice planted a seed. Not long after Agnes met David, a tall, smooth-talking man in his early 30s. He was strong, attentive, and flirtatious. What began as innocent banter quickly escalated into a passionate affair. At first, they met in discreet hotel rooms across Lagos. But soon, Agnes grew bolder. She brought him home one sunny afternoon. While the children lounged around the house, Agnes cleared her throat and made a bold announcement in the living room. "This is David, my personal driver." The children exchanged curious glances, but no one dared speak. Then one fateful night, as the sitting room lights remained on late, Chisom came down for water. What she saw stopped her cold. "Mom," she gasped. There, on the living room sofa, Agnes and David were locked in a passionate kiss, completely unaware. Agnes jumped up, straightening her blouse. "Say nothing," she hissed, her eyes flashing. "You hear me." Tears welled up in Chisom's eyes as she turned and ran upstairs. For heartbreaking, the mother she once admired had become a stranger. One quiet morning, as the birds chirped softly outside the guest room window, Chief Okonkwo looked at Chisom and said, "My daughter, I want to go to the village." Chisom, who had grown increasingly worried about her father's fading spirit, nodded immediately. "Yes, Daddy, I think that's a good idea. Maybe we can even try some alternative treatments. I can't just sit and watch you waste away." That same day, she packed a small bag for both of them: clothes, medicines, some cash, and a few cherished items. Then, carefully, she helped her father into the car and drove him to their ancestral village in Anambra. When news spread that Chief Okonkwo was sick and had returned to the village, the entire community came alive. Men, women, and children gathered round their family compound. Some brought calabashes of palm wine, others carried yams and gifts. Old women began to sing songs from the days of his youth, while others cried openly, "He paid school fees for our children." One woman wept, "He gave my husband a job when no one else would." "We can't lose him." Touched by the outpouring of love, a woman made the journey deep into the forest and returned the next morning with the most respected herbalist in the region. When the herbalist arrived, dressed in traditional beads and carrying a staff, he entered the chief's room, looked deeply into his eyes, and then said in a commanding tone, "Everyone, leave us alone with Chief Okonkwo." He studied him for a long time and then smiled. "Why is there light in your eyes? This is not the face of a dying man. Chief gave a soft chuckle. Because I am not sick, my friend, I needed to test my family. I needed to see who truly cared. The herbalist threw back his head and laughed heartily. Your daughter is your miracle. Hold her close. She is the one. Later that evening, the herbalist pulled Chisom aside. Your father will be fine, he said with a knowing smile. You've done well, my daughter. 2 weeks later, as the sun began to rise over the hills, Chief Okonkwo sat with Chisom under the mango tree. His eyes, clear and sharp now, turned to her with affection. You deserve the truth, Chisom, he said gently. I'm not dying. I never was. I just needed to see who would love me when I was no longer useful. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she held his hand tightly. Daddy, thank God. Returning to the city after weeks in the village, Chief Okonkwo and Chisom stepped quietly into the family compound. It was early morning, and the household was just beginning to stir. As they entered the main house, their footsteps echoed through the marble hallway. In the living room, Obina was lounging on the couch in a silk robe, sipping juice. Onyeka was on a phone call, while Glory scrolled through her phone, absent-mindedly. Agnes, in her nightwear, emerged from the hallway, surprised by the sound of the front door. Then they all froze there. Standing tall in the entrance of the living room was Chief Okonkwo, not frail and sickly, but strong, proud, and radiant with health. Clad in a spotless white kaftan, his presence commanded the room. His eyes were sharp and unwavering, a far cry from the weakened man they had left behind. Beside him stood Chisom, poised and composed, her quiet strength shining through. My God, Obina stammered, nearly spilling his drink. You're blithe. Glory whispered, her voice trembling, mouth hanging open in disbelief. Without a word, Chief Okonkwo raised his hand and motioned for them to sit. They obeyed, hearts pounding, as a heavy tension settled over the room like a storm cloud about to burst. I was never sick, he said at last, his voice steady and cold. I wanted to test your love, and you failed. He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. Then, with a trace of sorrow in his tone, he added, what shocked me the most was that the villagers, poor, humble people, showed me more love than my own blood ever did. Silence choked the room. You abandoned me the moment I seemed weak. You stole from me. You sold what was not yours to sell. And my wife. His eyes locked on Agnes, burning with disappointment, brought another man into my house. His gaze swept across the rest of the family. My children became vultures, all but one. He walked calmly to the corners of the parlor and began opening hidden panels. One by one, he removed small black cameras. The family gasped as he placed them on the table. You were all watched, every word, every act. Obina, Onyeka, Glory, and Agnes shouted in disbelief. But the evidence was irrefutable. Chief Okonkwo turned to Chisom and held her hand gently. This is the only person who stood by me, who loved me for me. From today forward, she will take over all my companies and assets. A collective gasp filled the room. Papa, please, forgive us. They all cried, dropping to their knees. I forgive you, Chief Okonkwo said, but trust is not automatic. It must be earned. He looked around the room, eyes filled with both sorrow and resolve. I pampered you all too much. From today, you will leave this house. Go out, get jobs, make your own money, prove yourselves. Agnes broke down in tears, crawling to him. I'm sorry, Emmanuel, she wept. I let loneliness and fear deceive me. Chief Okonkwo looked at her. His face softened, but only slightly. You were once my queen, but you betrayed me in my weakest moment. He turned to them all. I didn't do this to punish you. I did it to see the truth, and now that I have seen it, I can rest. The future belongs to those who value love, not only luxury. Then he walked away, leaving them to sit in the shame of their choices. while Chisom, faithful and true, stood by his side. A year later, the winds of change had blown through the Okonkwo family, and nothing was as it used to be in the best way possible. Under Chisom's leadership, the family business experienced a remarkable rebirth. She worked tirelessly, rebuilding broken relationships with former staff, reviving abandoned projects, and restoring integrity to the company's name. Her humility and wisdom earned the respect of both old and new employees. The business began to thrive again, with profits soaring and expansion on the horizon. Obina, humbled by his fall, moved to a rural town and started a modest but promising farm. He worked with his hands for the first time and found peace in simplicity. Onyeka, with the little savings he had, launched a tech startup. Though the journey was tough, he finally discovered his passion for innovation and problem-solving. Glory, shedding her former vanity, took up a job as a teacher, pouring her heart into shaping young minds. Agnes, though forgiven by Chief Okonkwo, never fully regained her place in his heart. The warmth was gone, replaced by polite distance. Life moved on, but not as it once was. As for Chief Okonkwo, he lived longer and happier than ever, having learned that true love isn't proven when the sun is shining, but when the storm is raging.
Thank you for watching. Kindly tell us the area this story touched you. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more captivating stories. Thank you once again.
Like and subscribe.